Thank you. Let me update the House on how this has arisen. Those Commonwealth citizens who arrived before 1973 and were settled here have a right conferred by the 1971 Immigration Act to live in the UK. They were not required to take any action with the Home Office to document their status. The overwhelming majority already have the immigration documents they need, but there are some who, through no fault of their own, do not. And those are the people we're working hard to help now. My right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, has made clear a new dedicated team. A new dedicated team is being set up to help these people evidence their right to be here and access services, and it will aim to resolve cases within 2 weeks once the evidence has been put together.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last month, I raised a case of Albert Thompson, a man who has lived and worked here for decades, paid his taxes, and yet been denied National Health Service treatment. The Prime Minister brushed it off. Will she say what she will now do to ensure that Mr. Thompson gets the cancer treatment he urgently needs and is entitled to?
Prime Minister.
The right honourable gentleman did indeed raise the case of Albert Thompson. It was not brushed off. The Home Office... No. The Home Office have been in contact with Mr. Thompson's representatives. First of all, I want to make one point very clear, that no urgent treatment should be withheld by the NHS, regardless of ability or willingness to pay. I also want to make clear that, as it happens, Mr. Thompson is not part of the Windrush generation that I have just spoken about in answer to the first question. And finally, clinicians have been looking at Mr. Thompson's case, and he will be receiving the treatment he needs.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on the 20th of March, the Prime Minister wrote to me stating, while I sympathise with Mr. Thompson, we encourage him to make the appropriate application and provide evidence of his settled status here. Yesterday, we learnt that in 2010, the Home Office destroyed landing cards for a generation of Commonwealth citizens, and so have told people, we can't find you in our system. Did the Prime Minister, the then Home Secretary, sign off that decision?
Prime Minister.
No, the decision to destroy the landing cards was taken in 2009 under a Labour government.
That the Prime Minister must be heard, the Leader of the Opposition must be heard, and he will be. Jeremy Corbyn.
All the evidence...
Order! There was a lot of this yesterday, very noisy and extremely stupid barracking. It must stop now. That is the end of the matter. The public absolutely despise that type of behaviour from wherever in the House it takes place. Cut it out and grow up. Jeremy Corbyn.
Could I remind the Prime Minister it was her government that created, in quotes, a really hostile environment for immigrants, and her government that introduced the 2014 Immigration Act. Mr. Speaker, I think we need some absolute clarity on the question of the destruction of the landing cards. And if she's trying to blame officials, I remind her of what she said in 2004 when she said she was sick and tired of government ministers who simply blame other people when things go wrong. Does she stand by that advice?
The right honourable gentleman asked me if the decision to destroy the landing cards, had been taken in my time as Home Secretary. The decision to destroy the landing cards was taken in 2009, and as I seem to recall, in 2009 it was a Labour Home Secretary who was in position.
Mr. Speaker, it was under a Tory government, and she was Home Secretary at that time. And that is and such stress to a whole generation. And on Monday, the Home Secretary told the House, "I'm concerned that the Home Office has become too concerned with policy and strategy and sometimes loses sight of the individual." Who does the Prime Minister think is to blame for this? The current Home Secretary or her predecessor?
Prime Minister!
Say to the right honourable gentleman, the Home Office is a great department of state which touches people's lives every day in a whole variety of ways. My right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, has been swift in responding to this issue of the unfortunate confusion and anxiety for which we have apologised, which has arisen from the Windrush generation. The right honourable gentleman referred earlier to action that we had taken as a Conservative government to deal with illegal immigration. Can I say to the right honourable gentleman that I think it is absolutely right that we ensure that people who access our services that are paid for by taxpayers, that are relied on by people living in this country, have a right to do so, that we take action against people who are here illegally. The Windrush generation are here legally. They have a right to be here. They are British. But if he wants to question the issue of taking action against illegal immigration, I suggest he has a conversation with the former Shadow Home Secretary, the Right Honourable Member for Normanton, Castleford and Pontefract, who in 2013 said, "We need much stronger action from government to bring illegal immigration down."
Mr. Speaker, this isn't about illegal immigration. This is about Commonwealth citizens who had every right to be here. Cases like Mr. Thompson's have occurred because it was Home Office policy in 2012 to create the really hostile environment for migrants. And she was the Home Secretary that sent Home Office vans around Brent telling migrants to go home. Mr. Speaker, on Monday, the Immigration Minister said that some British citizens had been deported in error. The Home Secretary didn't know and then asked Commonwealth High Commissioners if they knew of any cases. So does the Prime Minister know how many British citizens have been wrongly deported, where to, and what provisions she's made to bring them back home to Britain?
Absolutely. Well, as the immigration has made clear, we apologise unreservedly for the distress that's being caused to anyone who may have been told incorrectly that they do not have the right to be in the UK. We're not aware of any specific cases of a person being removed from the UK in these circumstances, and we have absolutely no intention of asking anyone to leave who has the right to remain here. But the work will be done by the Home Office to reach out to those from this Windrush generation who maybe do not have the necessary documentation to ensure that that is provided. There will be no cost to them. Nobody will be out of pocket as a result of this. There is a difference between the Windrush generation, who are British, who are part of us, who have a right to be here, and we want to ensure that we give them the reassurance of that right, and those other people who are here illegally. And I think it is absolutely right that the government should make every effort to ensure that people who access our services have a right to do so, and that we take action against people who are here illegally.
Mr. Speaker, I'm informed that Mr. Albert Thompson has still not been informed when he will be getting the treatment he obviously needs as a matter of urgency. Doesn't the Home Office keep records? It's been months since these cases were first brought to the government's attention. We know of at least 2 British citizens languishing in detention centres in error, and this morning the Jamaican Prime Minister has said he knows of people who are unable to return to Britain. Mr. Speaker, this is a shameful episode, and the responsibility for it lies firmly at the Prime Minister's door. Her pandering to bogus immigration targets led to a hostile a hostile environment from people who are contributing to our country. It led to British citizens being denied NHS treatment, losing their jobs, homes and pensions, thrown into detention centres like criminals and even deported. Vital historical records shredded and ministers blaming officials. Mr. Speaker, the Windrush generation came to our country after the war to rebuild our nation that had been so devastated by war. Isn't the truth, Mr. Speaker, that under her the Home Office became heartless and hopeless? And doesn't she now run a government that is both callous and incompetent?
Prime Minister.
As I have said, the Windrush generation did come here after the war. They did help to build this country. Many of them worked in our public services. They contributed. They have a right to be here. They are British. And that is why we are working with those who have no documentation to ensure that they have that provided for them. The decision was taken in 1971 not to require them to have documentation. That's what's led to the problem that we now see in relation to the anxiety for these people. But the Right Honourable Gentleman talks about being callous and having a disregard for people. I have to say to him that I am the Prime Minister who initiated the race disparity audit, which said, what are we doing in this country to ensure that people have equal opportunities in this country? And following, can I say to the Right Honourable Gentleman, he talks about being callous. I will not take that. Following a debate last night, contributions were made, particularly by the members from Stoke-on-Trent North, from Barking and Liverpool Wavertree. I will not take an accusation of callous from a man who allows anti-Semitism to run rife in his party.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.